there's a few things that I think of right away with this, which is that we're always just looking for stories that we think will help resonate music and connect it to the audience, connecting artists and songs to the audiences that we have. So social media or streaming is one story. I'm not going to put, the stream numbers of Kendrick Lamar against an indie band from my neighborhood and try to say that they need to be equalized. But if we see something that creates a story, if we see something happening where it's truly, you can kind of feel like the stream is leading to something else, the streaming numbers, then that might help us drive some decision making that we're going to make. And it might just help us to realize, like, well, maybe this song is an outlier, or maybe something is happening on a broader basis. And if you see the streaming growth connecting to other metrics, which we haven't had as many other metrics during this last year and a half because there hasn't been touring, there hasn't been, maybe the press has been a little bit different over the past year or so. But when you start to see those things kind of connect the dots, that might point us in a positive direction towards an artist. But I mean, I don't know the median age these days of who's using TikTok, but it's probably a lot lower than most of the radio stations are programming to on this call. That said, if something is connecting with a TikTok audience, it means it's connecting with some audience. And if we hear the song and we think, well, that song could also connect with our audience, then it might have an impact on what we're doing, or we might be looking to kind of add on to that story that's happening.
We have a Zoom every single day, and we discuss data extensively, whether it's about streaming, how are we growing social numbers. And yes, to Daniel's point, TikTok is certainly a piece of it, but it's more about how are you growing the overall audience for the artist. We look at consumption, and one of the things that I've tried to, when I'm on a phone call, and many of the programmers on here, when they ask me, because I get to see the back end of Spotify, the back end of Apple, which 90% of the people that the programmers and the music directors are talking to, they don't have access to that information. As managers, we see that. And so I can really dive in, and I've done this with Marzalak numerous times, and said, like, where are those streams coming from? And as Daniel was pointing out, what we want to see is the conversion, not just from the editorial playlisting or the algorithmic playlists, but are people saving that song? Are they putting it on their own playlist? And that's what we want to see. We call that fan engagement. What we care about at Mick Management is growing our fan engagement, is growing our followers, because that inherently grows the artist across all the platforms.